You thought life was punishing you. You thought the weight was a sentence heavy, relentless, unfair. But what if I told you? The pressure you feel isn't there to break you. It's there to build you. The pain you're avoiding is the very thing shaping the weapon you're meant to become. This isn't punishment. This is preparation. And if you can stop seeing your pain as personal and start seeing it as purposeful, you'll rise. Not above it, but through it. You see, there's a strange thing about pressure. It doesn't visit the unworthy. It visits the chosen, the ones meant for more, the ones who carry something heavy inside them even when they don't understand it yet. Think of coal. It crumbles under force. But a diamond needs heat. It needs time. It needs intensity. Without pressure, it would remain hidden potential trapped in black carbon. And that's you. Not weak, just unpolished. There is a refinement happening inside you right now that only pain can access. Because there are lessons you can't learn in comfort. There are parts of you, strength, wisdom, patience, fire, that can only be born in the dark. No book can give you what the storm can. No shortcut will prepare you like the long way does. Ask anyone who built something real. Ford, Edison, Carnegie. They didn't stumble into greatness. They were forged in isolation, ridiculed by peers, broke, doubted, dismissed. But they understood something you must now hold. The world doesn't reward the strongest. It rewards the most willing to endure, willing to evolve, willing to walk through fire without needing applause. Pain is a strange currency. It buys you clarity. It strips away the lies. It burns off the noise. Because when you hurt enough, you stop negotiating. You stop caring what they think. You stop explaining your path to people who have none. That pain, it's not a prison, it's a filter. Separating the average from the awakened. Separating those who play life safe from those who decide to own it. And if you want to become someone who commands their life, you must stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this here to teach me?" When you shift that question, everything changes. You stop seeing obstacles as punishments and start seeing them as invitations. Invitations to rise, to sharpen, to remember that you are not here to survive the world. You're here to shape it. But that kind of identity doesn't come easy. It doesn't arrive wrapped in comfort. It arrives when life takes everything and you build anyway. It arrives when the world goes quiet and you still rise at dawn, sharpen your mind, train your body, lock in your focus. Because this pain isn't random, it's targeted, and that should excite you. You are being prepared for a level of responsibility your old self couldn't carry. Prepared for impact, prepared for power, prepared for peace that doesn't come from escape, but from earned strength. That peace is expensive. You pay for it in tears, in late nights no one sees, in silent sacrifices, in relentless discipline. But when it's yours, no one can take it. And that's the difference between the people who stay stuck and the ones who ascend. You've seen them. The ones who speak with weight, who move with clarity, who don't get shaken when life shakes. They didn't download that strength. They earned it. They bled for it. They broke for it. They walked through fire and didn't complain about the heat. Why? Because they realized early what most people never understand. Pain is a process, and the more you try to avoid it, the longer you delay your transformation. Look around. We live in a world allergic to discomfort. People quit when it's hard. They medicate their pain, scroll away their struggle, distract their way out of growth. But greatness, it demands a different response. It demands that when the world numbs out, you lean in. Not because you enjoy the pain, but because you know what it's doing. You know the fire is forging something real. You know the version of you on the other side of this is not just stronger, but undeniable. You don't build legacy on good days. You build it in battle. You build it when nothing makes sense, but you move anyway. When your heart is heavy, but your hands still work. When the door closes and you find a window. When no one believes in you and you still believe in yourself. And I'll tell you this, every moment you wanted to quit, every season you felt abandoned, every pain that cut you deeper than words, it wasn't random. It was revealing you. You don't learn who you are when everything's easy. You learn it when everything breaks. You learn it when the money runs out, when the calls stop coming in, when the people you trusted fade into silence. And in that silence, you find your edge. The old you would have collapsed. The old you needed validation. The old you depended on momentum. But this version of you, you don't wait. You initiate. You don't beg for strength. You build it. And you build it the way real builders do, brick by brick, day by day, refusing to bow when life tests you. Because every time life knocks, you don't flinch. You say, "Come in. I've been expecting you." Pain is not your enemy. Avoiding it is. Because when you dodge the pain, you delay the preparation. You push back the timeline on your own evolution. And worse, you send a signal to your subconscious, "I'm not ready." But when you stand in it, when you face it without flinching, when you allow it to sharpen instead of shatter, you send a different signal. You tell the world, "Give me the weight. I've been building the strength." And what happens next? You transform. Not all at once, but rep by rep, decision by decision, day by day, until one morning you wake up and realize the old triggers don't pull you anymore. The old distractions don't seduce you. The old fears don't steer the wheel. Because now you've become someone who moves from principle, not pressure. You see, pain introduces you to a part of yourself you didn't know you had. The disciplined part, the focused part, the fierce, decisive part, who doesn't wait for approval. The one who builds, not talks, who executes, not explains. And the truth is, you wouldn't have met that version of you without the friction, without the failure, without the heartbreak that stripped you of who you thought you were, so you could remember who you really are. Think of Lincoln. Before he freed a nation, he buried 2 sons. He lost election after election. He battled depression, poverty, self-doubt. And yet through all of it, he stood. He grew. He became. Not because the pain disappeared, but because he stopped trying to run from it. He used it. He let the struggle refine his conviction, let the sorrow stretch his soul, let the setbacks harden his resolve until he became unshakable. That's the power of pain when it's channeled. You've been asking for strength, but are you willing to pay the price? You've been praying for clarity, but are you willing to sit in the storm without begging for the exit? Because no one becomes legendary through ease. They become legendary by enduring what others won't. And you're being called into that same fire. Not to be burned, to be reborn. This is your season of fire. But fire doesn't just destroy, it purifies. It doesn't just scorch, it reveals. It melts away everything that isn't essential, leaving behind only what's real. And if you're in that season right now, if life feels heavier than ever, good. That means something sacred is being extracted. That means your foundation is being rebuilt from the bones out. That means this isn't the end. It's the exact middle of your transformation. But only if you stay. Only if you don't retreat. Only if you stop making your pain the villain and start making it the mentor. You have to be willing to learn the language of pain because it doesn't speak in comfort. It speaks in silence, in fatigue, in failure, in moments where your hands shake but you move anyway. It speaks in the form of closed doors, unanswered prayers, the long nights where no one calls, and your purpose still demands your attention. That is where the builders are born. Not in the arena, not under the lights, in the dark, in obscurity. When the work is quiet and the reward is invisible, but you keep showing up. You keep building anyway, not because it's fun, because it's required, because something in you refuses to stay average. Something in you knows this storm has meaning, that this pain is producing something eternal, not in what you have, but in who you become. You want to be unstoppable. Then stop needing everything to feel good before you move. Move through resistance. Move through the weight. Move through the silence. Because that's what they never tell you. Success isn't loud. It's not a burst. It's a pattern. It's brushing your teeth with discipline. It's working your mission while others sleep. It's eating right when no one will see your body. It's preparing for the opportunity long before it arrives. And you build that pattern through pain. Because pain teaches you what pleasure never could. It humbles you. It matures you. It cleans out your weakness and exposes your patterns. That's how you grow, not in the light, but in the tension. Every crack in your heart, let it be a place where your future breaks through. Every tear you've swallowed, let it be water to the soil of your discipline. Every loss, let it teach you the art of staying centered while the world falls apart. You don't need another motivational quote. You need a decision. You need to declare right here in the fire, I will not waste this. This pain is mine. I will not escape it. I will not numb it. I will use it. Because I am not here to be coddled. I am here to be carved into something eternal. And I will not let the pain pass without letting it teach me, without letting it shape me, without turning it into power. You weren't meant to be soft. You weren't made for the sidelines, for playing it safe, for decorating a life of distraction. You were built for impact, for weight, for fire. But impact has a price, and the down payment is always pain. You don't get the life you dream about without trading comfort for conviction. You don't get strength without fatigue. You don't get depth without suffering. The greats knew this. They walked straight into the furnace, not because they loved pain, but because they trusted what it would forge. Think of Edison. 10,000 failures. 10,000 nights of trying and coming up short. The world mocked him. They called him foolish. But he never saw those failures as punishment. He saw them as preparation. Because failure wasn't a signal to quit, it was data. It was feedback. It was the refining process. That's the mindset of a builder. That's the mentality you must carry now. This pain you feel, it's not your enemy. It's your lab. It's your teacher. It's your invitation to master the moment instead of escape it. Don't run from this season. Study it. Because the same thing that hurts you now will one day become your edge if you learn how to hold it. And the more it burns, the more it strips away what you don't need. Your ego, your false timelines, your desire to be liked more than you're willing to be great. Pain doesn't ask for your comfort. It demands your truth. And if you're willing to face it, you'll find power most people never touch because they back down too soon. Your pain has been sent to prepare you for what you prayed for. You wanted strength. This is how you earn it. You wanted clarity. Then welcome the chaos, because that's where clarity is born. You wanted self-respect. Then keep your word through the storm. You wanted discipline. Then train when your body begs to quit. You wanted vision. Then stop waiting for the fog to clear and walk anyway. That's the real test. Can you move without momentum? Can you keep going with no applause? Can you show up when it would be easier to disappear? That's what separates leaders from watchers, builders from browsers, legends from memories. So the next time you feel the pressure building, don't shrink. Don't reach for the escape hatch. Don't medicate it with distractions and meaningless validation. Stand up, clench your fists, and build anyway. Say it to yourself, this pain is not punishment, it's weight. And I've been training for this, because you have. Every time you chose discipline over comfort. Every time you said no when it would have been easy to say yes. Every time you woke up when the world slept. You've been stacking reps not for applause, but for this moment. This is your proving ground. This is the quiet space where warriors are made. And the beautiful part, you don't need anyone to see it. Because when you finally rise, when the world asks how you became who you are, you won't need to explain. You'll just point to the scars. Scars that don't scream of weakness. They whisper of survival. They testify to your endurance. They are sacred reminders that you've been through hell and you didn't retreat. You rebuilt. You rose. You became. So stop wishing it away. Let the pain do its work. Let it kill what doesn't serve your future. Let it refine what's real. Let it press you so hard that you have no choice but to emerge with clarity and fire. This isn't a breakdown. It's a breaking open. You're not falling apart. You're falling into alignment. Your distractions are dying. Your old identity is collapsing. And beneath all that noise, there you are. The real you. Not the version molded by comfort, but the one forged in conviction, in solitude, in silence, in seasons when no one believed but you refused to quit. You don't owe the world an explanation for your pain. You owe yourself a decision to never waste it. And from that decision, everything changes. Because pain teaches you how to respect time. It reminds you that nothing is promised, that nothing is owed. That every second you delay is a second you'll never get back. It humbles your ego and sharpens your focus. It reminds you that life isn't about avoiding suffering, it's about learning to suffer well. To suffer with your head up. To suffer with your values intact. To suffer in a way that transforms wounds into wisdom pressure, into power, and weight into wings. And when you emerge, you don't come out soft. You don't come out loud. You come out solid, quiet, unshakable. Because you're not here to be noticed. You're here to be respected. And respect is earned in pain. Not just when you rise, but how you rise. What you build while bleeding. What you finish when most people would fold. That's the kind of soul that can't be shaken. That's the kind of human who becomes unstoppable. Most people will never understand this. They'll run from pain like it's the enemy, not realizing it's the compass. Not realizing it's the test. Not realizing it's the refiner's fire, the final classroom before transformation. They'll scroll past it, distract themselves, medicate it, complain about it. They'll tell themselves this shouldn't be happening. But who are we to say what pain is meant to do? What if this pain is the only path strong enough to carry your purpose? What if your calling requires a deeper character than comfort can build? That's the difference between the ones who rise and the ones who run. The ones who rise stop asking, "How do I escape this?" and start asking, "How do I embody this?" They embrace it like a sacred task. Not because they enjoy suffering, but because they finally see it as holy, necessary, unavoidable. They stop taking it personally and start taking it seriously. Because you can't step into purpose while dodging the pain that purifies you for it. So don't flinch, don't fold, and don't fantasize about a version of life that's free of struggle. Because even your heroes were crushed. Even your idols were wrecked. Even the most powerful leaders were bent before they were blessed. Think of Mandela. He spent 27 years in a prison cell not as punishment, but as preparation. He walked out of that place with power in his posture, forgiveness in his voice, and vision in his eyes. Because pain didn't destroy him, it refined him. It stripped the excess. It shaped the statesman. And if you're being stripped right now, good. You're not being punished. You're being positioned. Because pain always empties your hands before it places something greater in them. It removes what you cling to so you can grab what you're meant to carry. But you have to let it. You have to trust it. You have to believe that this isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. You may not see it now. But years from now, you'll point to this exact season and say, That's when everything changed. That's when I got honest. That's when I started building from truth, not ego. From discipline, not desperation. From clarity, not chaos. And yes, it'll cost you. Real transformation always does. It'll cost you comfort, your old identity, the applause of people who only liked the weaker version of you. It'll cost you convenience, the excuses you've been married to, the distractions you've been hiding behind. But what you get in return is priceless. You get peace that doesn't rely on the outside world. You get power that doesn't waver with mood. You get identity that's anchored in fire-tested self-respect. So if the world has gone quiet around you, let it. If you've lost people who couldn't carry your growth, release them. If you're waking up with doubt but still showing up, that's not weakness. That's the birth of a warrior. Because warriors aren't born in war. They're born in decision. They're born in the moment where pain knocks on the door, and instead of hiding, they answer it with conviction. No shaking hands. No maybe someday. Just one clear voice that says, let's go. And that voice, that quiet, unshakable inner authority, is what makes you unstoppable. Because once you decide, really decide, you no longer need to be convinced. You don't need a plan B. You don't need a cheering section. You don't need the conditions to be perfect. You've burned the bridge. You've killed the excuses. And you've realized, if you're walking through hell, you don't set up camp. You walk through it, and you walk through it like you were sent. Because you were sent. Not by chance. By design. You're not here to scroll. You're not here to coast. You're here to build. You're here to lead. You're here to take the bricks life threw at you and use them to construct something eternal. And if you're still breathing, you're still building. Pain hasn't ended your story. It's just given it weight. You don't need to start over. You just need to start again, but this time with fire. This time you don't wait for the pain to stop before you move. You move with it. You bring it into the gym, onto the page, into your morning ritual, into your deep work, into the mirror. You let it remind you of who you're becoming. You stop asking for easy. You start asking for alignment. And alignment will cost you, but it will also crown you. You'll walk different, speak different, choose different. Because when pain has done its work, you no longer move like someone trying to be something. You move like someone who already is. So don't quit, not here, not now. You're not being buried, you're being planted. And yes, it's dark. Yes, it's heavy. But what grows in sunlight only lasts a season. What grows in pressure, that becomes legacy. You're not fragile. You're forged. You're not being broken. You're being built. So take this season personally. Take this pain seriously. Because it's not here to hurt you. It's here to hand you the tools that peace never could. You've been praying for strength. But strength doesn't show up in comfort. It doesn't arrive with convenience. It doesn't grow in applause. Strength shows up when there's no one watching, and you show up anyway. That's what you're building right now. Not hype, not motivation, but rhythm. Reputation with yourself. Self-respect that doesn't bend when the day gets hard or the world goes quiet. Because the world will go quiet. And when it does, will you still rise? You say you want next level. You say you want purpose. You say you want to be the one who changes everything in your family, in your lineage, in your circle. But hear this truth. You don't get next-level results with last-level standards. You don't walk into a new chapter with an old identity. And you don't become a leader by avoiding what hurts. You lead by enduring what forges. Every powerful person you admire, they went through a season like this. A season where nothing made sense, where everything burned, where they had no blueprint except faith, and no tool except discipline. And that's what you're learning now, to trust what you do have instead of obsessing over what you don't. To move with faith instead of waiting for certainty. to build without applause instead of stalling without validation. This pain is reminding you that the power was never in the plan. The power is in the person, the one who keeps showing up. Pain takes the fluff off your life. It shows you what's real. It exposes every excuse, every addiction to perfection, every need to be liked. And it says, now that the noise is gone, will you still build? You will, because you've come too far to bow now. You didn't survive what you survived just to live soft. You didn't go through the fire just to come out silent. You're not here to cope. You're here to command. So you tighten your grip, you simplify your focus, and you understand that pain, when used properly, becomes the greatest fuel on earth. Not adrenaline, not hype, not willpower, but the quiet knowing that you've walked through hell and kept your integrity. You keep going, even when your chest is heavy, even when your eyes are tired, even when the doubt is loud. Because that's the thing about doubt, it doesn't disappear. You just learn to keep walking louder than it. You build systems, you build discipline, you build identity. That's the only kind of success that doesn't get knocked over by the first storm. The kind that's rooted, tested, unshakable. Let the world post their wins. You post consistency. Let them chase dopamine. You chase direction. Let them ask for shortcuts. You ask for standards. Because the person who stays when it's hard will become the person no one can ignore when it's time. But you don't do it to be seen. You do it because you've made a contract with your future self. You've looked them in the eyes and said, I will earn you. I will fight for you. I will walk through what breaks others, and I will come out refined. The old you, that version that needed praise to perform, gone. The version that needed someone else to tell you your worth, gone. Because pain ripped all of that away and left you with something far better: conviction, discipline, depth. You no longer perform for the world. You show up because that's who you are now. And if the world sees it, great. If not, you build anyway. Because greatness isn't measured by attention. It's measured by consistency in the dark. You don't rise once. You rise every day. You choose to keep building when it would be easier to escape. You rise every time you decide, my word matters more than my mood. This is what separates the few from the many. They stop when it hurts. You lean in when it hurts. They break down. You break through. They want comfort. You want character. And that's the difference between noise and legacy. Your legacy isn't in what you say. It's in what you build when it hurts. It's in the systems you honor when no one else is watching. The food you put in your body. The words you allow in your mind. The people you surround yourself with. The way you protect your energy like it's sacred. Because it is. Your energy, your discipline, your pain. They are shaping a version of you that will walk into rooms and not need to say a word. Because how you move will speak for you. That's what pain is giving you, not a scar, but a signature. Not a setback, but substance. And you'll see it, the day you show up and realize you didn't flinch this time. You didn't waver. You didn't make an excuse. You executed. You honored your system. You kept your contract. That day, you'll understand. Pain wasn't punishment. It was the blueprint, and you've been building something the whole time. There is no going back now, because now you've seen it. You've touched the part of you that doesn't flinch. You've walked through days that should have broken you but didn't. And once you've met that version of yourself, you don't settle for less ever again. That's what pain gives you, not just strength, but standards. It's no longer about what you want. It's about who you refuse to be. You refuse to be average. You refuse to be reactive. You refuse to be ruled by moods, setbacks, or the opinions of people who don't carry your vision. Because now, you've earned the right to trust yourself. Not the surface self, but the one beneath the fear, beneath the noise, beneath the pressure, the one that wakes up before the sun, the one that moves with precision not to impress, but to express the code you now live by. You don't have to try anymore. You are. You're no longer chasing transformation. You've become the system that creates it. And that's why it had to hurt. That's why it had to get quiet. That's why it had to feel like you were being broken. Because without the breaking, you would have stayed tied to who you used to be. But now you've stepped beyond the version of you who needed permission. You no longer explain your discipline. You embody it. You no longer seek peace. You create it. And when people ask you how you did it, you won't say much. Because the truth is, it wasn't a moment. It wasn't a quote. It wasn't a hack. It was pain. Daily. Relentless. Sacred. And you decided to stay. You decided to stay in the gym when your body begged you to quit. You stayed in the silence when your mind wanted distraction. You stayed in the vision when your results didn't show up yet. You stayed not because you felt strong, but because you decided you would become unshakable. And now you don't need hype. You don't need motivation. Because your discipline is no longer a practice, it's your identity. Understand this. Pain never asks you to stay the same. It either weakens you or it wakes you. And this time it woke you. You didn't run. You didn't numb it. You let it teach you. You let it test you. You let it forge you. And now the world feels different, not because it changed, but because you did. Now you walk into the room with calm. Now you move with intention. Now your silence has weight, because you've trained in the fire. And fire gives you clarity. Clarity to know what to cut. Clarity to know what deserves your energy. Clarity to know that your peace is built, not found. You no longer need a breakthrough. You are the breakthrough. And you didn't earn it by waiting for the world to fix itself. You earned it by deciding, if nothing changes, I still will. That's when it shifts. Not when life gets easier, but when you get sharper. Not when the pain disappears, but when you stop negotiating with it. Not when it feels good, but when you do it anyway. This is what Napoleon Hill meant when he said, every adversity carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. But seeds don't grow unless you bury them in pressure and water them with resolve. They don't bloom unless you protect the soil. And that's what you've done. You stopped pulling up your progress every time you felt resistance. You stayed planted. You let the roots grow deep. And now you're ready for weight. You're ready for more. Because pain didn't stop you. It built your frame. And the most powerful part, no one can take that from you. Not the economy, not the algorithm, not the opinions of people still living in fear. Because now you've built something permanent. A mind that doesn't flinch. A body that doesn't fold. A spirit that doesn't settle. This is who you are now. You don't try to become disciplined. You wake up in it. You don't wish for purpose. You work in it. You don't beg for peace. You move from it. And if you're still hurting, if there's still a crack in your chest, good. Keep going. Because every day you build inside the pain is a day you're building a future that cannot be shaken by anything outside of it. You're not here to live by ease. You're here to build with urgency. You're here to finish the race your past self never believed you could run. You're here to become someone no storm can shake because storms no longer scare you. You've already walked through one, and you came out different. You don't need to tell the world. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them feel it when you walk in the room and your presence speaks what pain taught you. I am not who I was. I'm no longer asking for power. I've become it. You've carried the weight. You've stayed through the storm. And now everything changes. Not because the world has finally recognized you. Not because the pain has vanished. But because something deeper has settled inside you. A kind of knowing. A kind of fire. A kind of unshakable awareness that says, I'm not hoping anymore. I'm building. And I'm building with everything pain taught me. This is what you were being prepared for. This is why the fire came. Not to punish you, but to strip away the layers of limitation. The false identities, the temporary attachments, the comfort traps that felt safe but kept you small. You were never meant to live sedated. You were meant to rise, to create, to step into each morning with your feet planted in purpose and your spirit anchored in clarity. And that's what this season was about. Not to weaken you, but to wake you. And you woke up. You stopped scrolling. You stopped wishing. You stopped waiting to be rescued. And instead, you began reconstructing your reality. Hour by hour, habit by habit, standard by standard. You made the silent decision to stop running from the weight and start lifting it. And now you move different. Not because the path got easier, but because you got wider shoulders. You carry more. Not in pain, in power. You don't rise like a survivor. You rise like a commander. And there's no need to broadcast it. The ones who feel it will never forget you. The ones who doubted you will never overlook you again. Not because you yelled louder, but because you never stopped building. You built when it was hard. You built when it was quiet. You built when it was just you, your doubts, and your discipline in the dark. And now, you walk like a storm in slow motion. Your peace is intimidating. Your silence has gravity. And your presence speaks volumes because of one truth. You didn't escape the pain. You earned it. You didn't numb it. You navigated it. You didn't blame the world. You rebuilt your world from the inside out. So what now? You keep going. Not because you're broken, but because now you're built. You don't need to sprint. You just need to never stop stacking. Never stop choosing alignment over attention. Never stop trading ease for excellence. Never stop protecting your focus like a sacred contract with your future. Because it is sacred. Your energy is sacred. Your time is sacred. Your purpose is not casual. You don't water it down anymore. You don't hand it over to people who don't understand it. You don't apologize for the mission that pain has carved into your bones. Because now you know the discipline is the reward. The stillness is the wealth. The fire is the proof. And peace. Peace isn't the absence of pain. Peace is the result of knowing exactly who you are because of the pain. So when the world shakes, you stay still. When people leave, you stay solid. When the next wave of pressure comes, you greet it not with fear, but with the strength you've now earned. Because you've tasted what it's like to walk through hell and come out holding the blueprint for heaven. You don't fear fire anymore. You respect it. You wield it. And when it comes again, you'll remember what pain already taught you. You are not fragile. You are not unlucky. You are not being punished. You are becoming unstoppable. So now the final truth. You were never being broken. You were being brought back to yourself. The real you. The relentless one. The locked-in one. The one that doesn't ask if it's possible, but makes it inevitable. And from this moment forward, you never forget what built you. You never forget what pain gave you, because it gave you everything. Not the outcomes, but the becoming. Not the applause, but the anchor. Not the spotlight, but the structure. And that structure is forever. You'll carry it into every room. You'll pass it into every conversation. You'll bring it into your business, your relationships, your vision, your legacy. You'll walk through the rest of your life with the certainty that comes from being tested and trusted. Because God doesn't waste pain. The universe doesn't waste fire. And you didn't waste the lesson. You listened. You leaned in. You transformed. And now you are undeniable. No more waiting. No more retreating. No more shrinking to fit rooms that weren't built for your future. You rise. You lead. You execute. Not because it's easy, but because you're ready. Because pain wasn't punishment. It was preparation. And now it's time to build.